lot of lines to go down here with the structure already. Line.
It's a lot of pieces of paper at this point.
I think I'm using about as much as somebody doing 7-0.
Huh?
You end up using just about as much paper.
Probably still less,
Oh.
but
It just looks a lot different, honestly. Well, or something.
I just need to make sure that I know where everything is.
I write down like every other, try to write down every other word.
Yeah.
Problematic.
You ready?
sometimes.
No. I'm sorry.
It's like happy.
Look, I don't get to choose my debate, so I do get to choose when it starts. Now I am.
Okay. I'll do the majority of our offensive work here because I'm screwed up on the line-by-line. Subpoint A, a Vietnam captain once said that you should destroy a village to save it. This collapses the possibility for productive change because of what happened in Vietnam. The debate they have is the exact same idea that we have no idea what we are going to be able to talk about in the debate round. Subpoint B is policy good. Our Albert evidence was conceded, indicates that we should have specific policy-based solutions that they solve problems, merely pointing out what problems, that exist and not attempting to do anything to solve them, do not lead to the ability to change. OB specifically highlighted this as the ability for us to be able to go on our offense. Our argument is that in a world where an affirmative does not have to defend policy, they will race to the bottom because they will want to defend arguments like my favorite movie is X, which is a fact statement that they can make, which is impossible to negate because there's no literature. Their gentlest evidence indicates that specific policy-based solutions are key to solving real-world problems. They say go to political science class, but most of that is the banking model education where we have stuff thrown into us, but we are not able to talk about what happens in the debate round. So it is more likely that we are able to discuss policy issues in the debate round. Our Keller evidence indicates that policy discussion, specifically the advocacy of policy-focused options, is the hallmark of critical thinking skills. This internally turns there no truth claim arguments because when we have an idea about what goes on in the real world, then we can begin to change it. Some point C is switch side debate. They could do their argument on the negative, and our Muir and Rawls evidence indicates that this would be better because when they were to negate this on the negative, they would be able to come up with better responses to why policy focus was good. This is a conceded argument. They say that we don't switch side, but that is not our argument in their affirmative world. Affirmatives would race to the bottom and attempt to not defend the policy which we have offense to. So point D, this is not a reason to vote affirmative. This is the last one in our argument that is flagged. If all of their arguments are true, it's a reason why we should not have rules in debate rounds, but not a reason why you should vote affirmative. At worst, you flip a coin line by line. They say that there's catastrophe. They haven't answered our warrants about inclusion of the nature of this topic. That multiple affirmatives prove that we are not reaching multiple affirmatives and critical fumes defending the topic prove that we are not coming to a catastrophe. Now this tournament size is increasing. We all came to sit in the cold to debate each other and travel around the campus, but the quality of debate is drastically increasing. They say that we unfairly exclude them incestually. We are not incestuous. Stop pigeonholing us as only policy. I want to be a lawyer, so I study law. That is why I do these types of education. They are making they are saying that all education is meaningless in our framework if we win an argument that they will lead to a race to the bottom. They say that we must be pushed towards a crisis. I will make our crisis bad arguments here. Extend our two pieces of evidence that indicates that in a time of crisis you don't are not actually able to change the underlying structural problems because we are attempting to make those problems now, especially in a world where we control uniqueness and there's no catastrophe coming down. You would not want to risk the possibility of collapse in debate. Two conceded 1 AR arguments. First, there would be no judges. Even if some judges like listening to these types of arguments, we are the only ones with specific evidence that indicates that even if their type of argument is cool, what their argument leads to is affirmatives that don't defend anything besides a personal opinion, which they conceded 1 AR argument. Some point B is no debaters, a large majority of the debate community would leave taking amazing theoretical educational people like Dallas Perkins, Ross Smith, Scott Harris, all people that may like policy debate but have open minds about multiple issues. They say that we allow becoming topical. Switch side debate solves for this argument because they could learn how to become they could learn about all of these things on the negative. We do allow becoming because they could all of our policy state focused good arguments are reasons why we allow becoming. We are an impact into this argument. I will do our rules good work here. Extend our Lewis evidence indicates that the act's dismissal of discussing the ramifications of political institution leads to totalitarianism because there will be a takeover by the right. Two pieces of chivalry evidence indicates that we have to have an agreement about issues. They say predictability bad, it's good. Predictability bad, it's good. Our two pieces of chivalry evidence and the predictable rules are prerequisites to debate because if we don't know what we are debating about, then it is possible to debate it. As a critical to participation in debate. Our 1C parley evidence indicates that 80% of debaters and judges participate in actual ways. They said it wasn't any good, wouldn't participate in again. They say it's not 90-50 off, but the literature and study-based consensus is on our side. And they say people should advocate the topic, but it would be avoid stale framework debates. They say wiki case faceless checks, but it doesn't check. In a world where 155 teams can say anything on any given day, there would be never a same affirmative. It also doesn't answer things like new arguments. They say parley doesn't have relevance, but it does have relevance because they are given a topic for the debate like we are. They do remind us of parley debaters with all their shenanigans. They go on during their speeches. They say that we don't. They can have a topic that's all about how there would be race to bottom. They say that there's no catastrophe coming down. We control uniqueness. This argument's covered above. A lot of this is just repeating of arguments that have already been answered. You say that they include topics, but there's no bright line to other projects. Other projects that we have highlighted are arguments that have a hail to the topic, but still defend some form of topic. Remember, it's not what Baylor does. It is what affirmatives would defend in a world of their arguments. They say that they're not like parley debate. That's covered above. They say that they can never win an argument like as dumb as I like a movie. How do you win then? The point of being affirmative is to resolve something true. If it is much easier for affirmatives to race to the bottom and prove that I like a certain movie, I like a certain movie, which would be obviously much easier to prove true. Now they say cancer metaphor, not going for it. They say the argument this is not about their policy, that there is no impact to defending it. They also apologize. They say that there's multiple different words have different meanings. I'll do that work here because our Vine evidence indicates that Baudrillard is wrong on this question. That his attempt allows for a lack of morality because our evidence indicates that he could, by not signifying meaning, that you can never do things like solve problems. Our so-called evidence is an internal link to their affirmative because it indicates that we have to have truth claims to challenge real-world issues. Now the Twin C counterplan. Their OB's argument is that we get a policy-focused good argument. They only say that it doesn't compete, but that contradicts the Twin C argument. They say permutation is obviously intrinsic. It is intrinsic affirmative because we could have defended something on the topic. They say that that we don't read one argument all the time. We don't read one argument all the time. This is the pigeonholing argument above. They say really bad. That's covered above. They say rule versus law. There's not an implication to this argument. All of our Shively evidence indicates that their disregard for rules trades off with what happens inside of the debate round. There's not a logical cross-application to this. You should also do a lot of work protecting the 2NR because I think I'm doing a pretty good job on the line by line, but and they're not answering any of our arguments. They say good versus evil. There's not a warrant explained here. They could be included. Look, a world if they're affirmative is bad because they so race the bottom negatives can predict.